ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Hammerhead Sports Productions. I am here with Morris Hilton Jr.,
Yep,
correct?
yep, yeah.
He is another member of the Connecticut Falcons who have agreed to do an interview with me, and they've become quite a popular mainstay on my sports debate show, and I'm very appreciative of that. So thank you again, Morris, for doing this with me.
No problem, no problem.
So I guess, let's just kind of hit it off, and I guess how long you've been playing semi-pro football?
I started in 2015. 2015 was my first year. Started in the MLF, Major League Football, with the Westchester Steelers. That's my first team.
And how many teams have you played for since then?
Too many to count. Probably close to 10. Probably narrowing on 10 now.
T- Okay, so in 9 years, you played for 10 teams?
Yeah, yeah. So I'm one of those guys that can't put the football down. I usually play in two or three different seasons a year. So every year I play for two different teams, sometimes three different teams in the same year.
Damn. That's like Ryan Fitzpatrick territory right there.
Yeah, it is.
I forget.
Trust me, it's not. I think he
I
played
didn't want to cut you
for,
off.
I think he played for eight or seven teams.
He played, I think, for nine. I bet I can, Buffalo Bills, Tennessee Titans, Washington
Yep.
Redskins, Houston Texans, Miami Dolphins, Cincinnati Bengals, the St. Louis Rams. I know there's one I'm forgetting.
Google will do
Yeah,
it.
but I know it's up there. It's definitely eight. I just can't remember the eighth one. Uh oh, did I already say Tennessee Titans?
Yeah.
Ah, damn it. Okay, then yeah, I don't know, shiznit. Um, so yeah, so damn, so doesn't that at all kind of take a bit of wear and tear on your body a little bit to play two seasons every year?
It does. It does. And I feel it now. I'm getting to the end of my career. I'm starting to feel it.
Oh, come on, you ain't old.
I'm not old, but I play usually around 26 to 30 games a season or a year. So I'm starting to feel it.
Damn. And I know this year you obviously are playing for the Connecticut uh Falcons for the summer. What's your fall team currently?
So the Falcons is in technically the spring season, and then we have a summer season, which usually is only played by teams in New England. And then pretty much the rest of the country will play fall football, like most people. Uh,
Okay.
so right now in the summer, I'm not sure. The team that I was on last year, they folded. It wasn't able to keep the operations going. And then the team that I joined after that might not be coming back either. So kind of up in the air right now. Some teams
What
reached out to me, so I got an idea of where I might be, but I haven't made a decision yet.
what was the name of the team that folded?
That
Just
was
out
the
of
Connecticut
curiosity.
Militia. Yeah, Connecticut Militia. They're a very prominent team back around 2017, 18, 19.
Okay.
Um, there's just like a cycle that happens if you have success in semi-pro. So you ride
Mm-hmm.
this wave going up where you're chasing the championship and guys join in. And then once you reach that pinnacle of success and you have a championship, it usually nosedives. Guys stop coming to practice, you lose commitment. A lot of the guys that get the championships retire and you kind of lose your identity. And some teams are able to kind of get through that and rebuild, and other teams don't. So the Militia was one of those teams that won championships, very successful. They nosedived, and the owner decided, success is my definition of this team. So he closed shop. So they came back last year for the first time in about 3 or 4 years. And it never really, the wheels never spun. We had a bunch of guys that said they were going to come and didn't come. And, we faced a very tough season last year. It was a very competitive season in the ECFL, East Coast Football League, and the team just couldn't do it. So Connecticut Militia folded mid-season, and they made a last-second rule adjustment, like an exception for many of the
Mm-hmm.
players on the team. Not all of them, but many of them. and they were allowed to join another team. And I ended up joining the Hartford Rebels, which was another championship team. And there's different levels of semi-pro: 1A, 2A, 3A. They were fighting for 3A championships. They moved down to 2A, and they strung a bunch of them together. And then the league changed, and they had to go back to 3A. And they struggled in 3A. And you have that same nosedive of success, and the team kind of started to fall apart a little bit. And now a bunch of their main guys have gone to other teams. So it's kind of yet to be determined if that team will come back or not. Um, I talked to the coach, and right now his focus is on his family and kind of having some time off. So we'll see what
Oh, that
happens.
was a bad idea. Um, I was so if you played in the ACFL, because last year I worked for this, I actually worked for the Grand State Destroyers.
Nice.
So yeah, we did. I don't think we played you guys
No,
because I
so the
think
Granite State
you guys are in a
Destroyers,
different
they were
different
in the two.
divisions.
Yeah, they were in the technically the ECFL does it by division. So you got North, South, I think it's East and Coast. And the North and South for AAA is supposed to be the highest level of competition in the semi-pro level. And then you have AA, which is competitive, but not as competitive. Things aren't as serious. And then you got single A, which is kind of for entry level guys straight out of high school, organizations that are just starting, kind of just a place where you can develop your organization. So
Mm.
yeah, GSD, Granite State Destroyers, they've been AAA for years. They decided last year to go down to AA, and and the ECFL, I really didn't consider the AA to be a true AA. It was a very competitive league. You had the reigning national champions for AA in that league, and they didn't even go 500. So that tells you how competitive AA was last year in the ECFL. Um,
Like I can attest to that.
yeah, it was very competitive. And we the militia and the rebels were in AAA. So that's I didn't get to see you guys.
When you say certain guys didn't, show up, do you mean the guys who paid and didn't show up, or guys who said they like made a verbal commitment and then didn't show up?
So you have a combination of all of that, actually. So you got guys that will say that they're gonna come preseason, don't sign any paperwork, it's all verbal. Then you got guys who sign paperwork and say they're gonna come and don't come. And then you got guys that sign paperwork and give money and still don't come.
I've
So
never understood that.
I guess they got money to blow. So
Because it's like you put down $200 for this and you show up to like one game. It's like you pay $200 to play one game,
yeah,
all the equipment and everything. I just don't understand it because this happened when I was with the Greater Boston Stallions. It happened when I was with the Destroyers, and and I forget where else I saw this, where certain guys would pay and then not show up.
yeah. I think some guys see semi-pro football as a pickup version of football. So they're like, all right, I'll pay so that I can get the jersey and say I'm part of the team, and I'll go when I feel like going. And if I can, I can't. It is what it is. And I think that's the challenge of semi-pros that you got a solid group of guys that take this dead serious. They are out to win and compete, and they train for it. And you also mix in some guys that really don't take it serious at all. They're just hanging out. So it's a tough mixture.
And then it just brings up the fact it's like, what can you do? It's like you can say, "Oh, we'll suspend you. Oh, I just won't come. Oh, we won't give you playing time again. I just won't come." And it's like with high school and youth and college, you have the maturity and that somewhat the coaches have the leverage. But then it's like in semi-pro, you lose to certain guys that don't have the maturity, and then you don't have the leverage anymore.
I think when you look at football, particularly, I think if you choose to do football on your own, I think you're going through something in life. Like it's almost like boxing. To want to go out and hit people and be hit, you got to be going through something where you need to release it, right? And as a kid, it kind of makes sense. You're either the kid who needs a release, or you're the kid that your parents told you need to do something, and everybody play football, so you play football. As you go through life and you get higher and higher in age, and you get to high school level, that's when you start to really see the tail dive. Like, not as many guys that grew up playing football anymore. Now it starts to become more serious. And the older you get, the more serious it gets. And what happens is the amount of teams shrink, right? We always hear this number about there's a million high school football players and only 40,000 of them will play college football, and only, I think it's like 350 or 400 will make it to the NFL from college. The numbers dwindle fast, right? And I think with semi-pro, we don't take the division, the separation of AAA teams and single A teams as serious as we need to. And I think that really has to do with just like the overall management of semi-pro is too ruleless, and anybody can make a team and anybody can make a league, and nobody's communicating with each other. So you have some leagues that might call themselves AAA leagues, but if you take them and put them up against another league, it's just completely different, right? They just will get destroyed. And I think the solution really comes down to there needs to be a standard and there needs to be a lot less teams. It's just way too easy for a guy to join a team and be on a roster. There's no real cuts. There's no real true tryouts. There's no reason to show up to practice. Like, the only reason you go to practice is if you really want to win. And there is not enough truly competitive guys to put together multiple teams like that where everybody's fighting for a championship. Usually you have two or three teams in a league that are really fighting for a championship. The rest of the guys just show up, and within those teams, you might have a couple guys that are really competitive, but yeah. So we've got a systematic problem right now.
Would you say since you've been playing in 2015, has that since system, as you just mentioned, was it worse? Uh, is it worse since then, or is it at least marginally gotten better?
It's significantly worse now. In 2015, there were a limited amount of leagues, but there were lots of teams, which is kind of backwards of what I just said, right? I said kind of the solution right now is to have less teams. But in 2015, I came kind of at the end of the heyday where there were a lot of ex-college and ex-NFL players coming back to play semi-pro football. And semi-pro is looked at as a place that you go if you're really good. Don't go there if you're not really good, because it's professional just without the paychecks. Somewhere along the lines, a lot of these high-profile leagues and some of these high-profile teams have kind of vanished, and you've seen this explosion of just new teams and new leagues, and the value, I think, of what the old guard of football, that value of you can only be here if you're good. You have to be competitive. If you're not practicing, you're going to get blown out 80 to zip, and nobody's going to care. They're not going to end the game. They're not going to, you know, cut the quarters in half. Like, you're going to play 60 minutes of football, and if you don't belong here, we're going to show you don't belong here. That's kind of changed, like, drastically. And I can't really tell you why. I really can't tell you the true reason. There's a lot of speculation of why that's happened, but we talk about this all the time.
Uh, I, I mean, I kind of can say I can speak to some of that because, as I mentioned before, I worked for the Stallions. It just
Yeah.
we were kind of like this organization that I was hired to. We talked a good game, promises were made. Our owner would show up to practices at first. He said all these. He would say A, B, and C. Then when A, B, and C came, our owner would only do C, And then the rest he would say, "Oh, I'll do it next week." And then that next week would come. "Oh, I'll do it next week." And that next week would come, and it would just be a cycle. And then we'd see less and less of him. And then all of a sudden, everything went into a hell in a handbasket, and I had to go to the board to get paid for my services. And we lasted 7 weeks, and we were done by mid-season.
Yeah.
So it's just, as you say, there's a lack of professionalism. There's a lack of that old guard to where they care. Because yeah, again, we that team had the same problems where like guys weren't showing up to practice. Though some have reasons more than others. Guys sometimes were showing up drunk to games. And even though the guy that would show up drunk to games was actually playing pretty well, he would get very irate. Like he was like it would be Antonio Brown on the sideline, but on steroids. This was
Yeah.
I'm saying I'm saying 2007 Antonio Brown, not 2021 Antonio Brown. And there was only and then when I went to the Destroyers, it was way more structuralized. Now, again, this is like one of the outliers. They were way more heavily structured. You had coaches, you had an owner who was very dedicated and who was still very dedicated, and you had systems in place. You had old guard that would keep guys in line. Now, obviously, there was still blowups during the season. You have your fight here, your disagreement there, but it was contained. It was dealt internally, so it would not become a problem. And that was something I was not used to seeing in semi-pro. It was like, wow, there are actually people that actually know what the hell they're doing.
Yeah.
Where was this when I started my career in 2017?
Yeah, that's GSD's been around a long time. And before GSD was Granite State Destroyers, a lot of that organization was in other places, right? And they've done a great job of putting together a core. So every team needs a core. They need a group of captains, and they need a group of guys who will one day be captains. Because captains can't do it by themselves. They get alienated sometimes. So you also need a group of guys who aren't necessarily captains, but they understand the system and they get on board. And that's called buy-in, right? You need buy-in. And that's the player side. On the other side, you need coaches who first know what the hell they're doing. That's one. And the second thing is you need a group of coaches that work together. A lot of semi-pro teams, you'll find that if the coaches don't really agree, you'll see them kind of split apart, and then you'll see complete teams break apart, and you'll see a team get cut in half. Some guys love that coach and go with him. Some guys love this coach and go with him. So you need coaches that at least can agree, and you got to have an owner that really believes in what his product is, right? Really believes in his brand and stands behind it and really loves what he's doing. Because you get some of these owners who really just want to have a team and want to get their guys out there. And once all the work that really goes into it starts to unfold and the money commitment that they have to make, it gets them out of the hot seat quick. At least your owner showed up at first. Some of these owners, they don't even show up to practice. They're like invisible people.
Yeah.
Oh, I lost you. I can't hear you. Still can't hear you. I can't hear you. There you go. Oh, yeah, there you go.
I'm good.
Yeah, you're good now.
When did I cut off?
Right after I stopped talking.
Oh, okay. Damn. Okay. Somebody tried to call me. So
Okay.
I thought I brushed that aside. I'll fix this in the editing. All right. I'll just make it look like I was still talking. Okay. I'll just restart. So going back, so yeah. Okay. Like I lost my train of thought.
Yeah,
Okay.
I was
How do I?
talking about like, the owners have to be committed. At least your owner showed up. Some of them, they're just invisible people. Like they never even show up.
Oh, okay, there we go. Um, oh, so piggybacking off of that, like back as I said, as I brought up the Stallions before, our first game was going to be televised in Revere. We had these big cameras set up on the top at Della Russo Stadium. We had a big crowd, like I'd say like at least 150 people. Like it was a pretty good crowd for a semi-pro game.
Yeah.
And 6 guys of the opposing team showed up.
Oh, that sucks.
6 guys.
That sucks.
So you so we had to cancel the game, and let's just say Revere TV wasn't happy. We
No.
weren't happy. Their players weren't happy because I will never forget one of the players had their owner on the phone, and he absolutely was going ballistic on him, yelling expletives and everything. So supposedly that guy had a reputation of doing this where he'll say he has a team and then nothing comes of it. So and so yeah, that was just messy and everything. Oh my god,
Yeah,
I'll never
we have a
forget
few
that day.
teams like that. I don't know if you've heard of the East Boston Jets.
No, I've not.
They are a team that for the last couple of years they say we're gonna have a team and they sign up and they pay and they never show up. You know, there's another team in Connecticut like that. That happens. I think guys, first of all, you can't do that because you get an opportunity like that to really create a new era of football at the semi-pro level where a program has believed enough to make it happen for you and be there on game day and are willing to televise this game. And that's the product that you deliver. They're probably never going to be able to approve that again. So,
Oh, we didn't. That's the only time I've ever seen a semi-pro game was going to be televised. That's the only time I've ever seen it.
yeah, so you ruined the opportunity for everyone else.
And it just sucks that it wasn't our fault. Even though we ended up folding mid-season. That's one of the few things we look back on. It's like we had nothing to do with that. That was not uh, there was nothing we could have done to have stopped that from happening.
I think the other side of that too is there's a lot of logistics that goes into a football game. You have insurance, field lights, you have videographers, some teams have statisticians, coaches, and you've got an entire group of guys who are going out of their way to be there. And you have teams that just do not respect any of that and will show up with six guys. Or might not show up at all. They might call at the last second and be like, hey, we're not coming. We don't have enough people. I've seen that. I've been a part of that. I've shown up to a football game and 2 hours before kickoff, yeah, we're not having a game today, go home. And that sucks. So the level of professionalism is extremely low at the time because then you have organizations that I think of like the Shamrocks or the Brooklyn Seminoles, Chattanooga Eagles. Like there's teams across the country that Dallas Prime. I mean, these teams are borderline professional teams. You know, the New England Admirals, like they operate on such a high level. These things don't happen. You know, these things don't happen. So again, I think the problem really goes to a lack of standardization and the leagues are concerned about the wrong things. If I could say that, trying to be politically correct.
Don't worry. I've been unpolitically correct numerous times, but if they want to come after me, come after me.
I'm
I
still
got
playing. When I stop playing, maybe I'll start letting loose.
Yeah, but hopefully they fix it by the time you stop playing. So man, that was a great conversation right there. I've never really gotten to go into that field, so that was great. So I can't say that was a great segment right there. So so I guess moving on to our to the next part. Going back to the Connecticut Falcons, how did you end up joining them? Was it via Twitter or somebody reaching out, as you've said before, that teams have reached out to you?
So no, they didn't reach out to me. 2018, I was still living in New York, and I had just moved to Connecticut. I moved to Danbury, Connecticut, and I had a friend that I grew up with that I played football with, and on Snapchat he kept posting these pictures of his helmet. And one day he posted a picture of two different helmets in two different colors, and I was like, "Hold on, that's semi-pro never has two helmet combinations." I'm like, "What team is this?" I hit him up, and he told me, "Oh, it's the Connecticut Falcons. You should come out." And I had a son, so my girlfriend at the time, she was pregnant, and I had taken some time away from football. So I'm like, man, I haven't played football in a while. Let me get back into it. And I just hit up the owner, Ivan Munoz, who I know you connected with. And I said, hey, I play football. And I sent him some clips of me playing in New York. And he said, come on down. I went to the first practice, and I brought this 80-pound weight vest, and I strapped the weight vest on, and I went to practice with the vest on. I practiced the entire practice with the vest on. And ever since then, I've been a part of the team. I think I've, made a pretty clear message there.
80-pound vest, I think, sends a message across. They probably thought you were probably thought you were a cop and like saying like, "Why the frick are you wearing a bulletproof vest? Are you in protect? Are you in witness protection?"
Somebody said that. One of my teammates, he was like, "Yo, you got a bulletproof vest on?" I was like, "Nah, it's a weight vest." He was like, "What?"
Oh, I could just imagine that. Oh my God. I gotta get me one of those for rugby because I bet that that helps you with pressure and stuff and all the
Yeah, it
above.
helps.
But
Just don't go 80 pounds. Go like 40. 40 is enough. 80 is a little overkill.
coming from the guy who does 80. Oh my God. So I just so since then you've been a stalwart of the team.
Pretty much. Yeah.
I bet you're well loved.
Some love you, some don't. You can't win with everybody.
How could you not love somebody wearing an 80-pound vest? I'm trying to keep my composure.
Yeah, looking back, I don't know what the hell I was thinking, but that's me. I'm that kind of person.
Well, thank thank you for bringing some laughter to the day.
You're welcome.
Oh, oh my God. Oh, all right, get my composure back. Yeah. All right, get it out of me. So, uh, so moving on. So, thanks to you and your antics, have you ever been elected captain?
Yeah. My second year with the Falcons. Um, so here's the thing, right? So I went to Iona Prep in New Rochelle, New York, and it's a prep school and it's very different. I grew up in Mount Vernon, New York, and I played for the Mount Vernon Razorbacks, which is a very well-known Pop Warner team. Very hard-nosed place to kind of learn football. It is very much less about playing great like technical football and more about how hard can you hit somebody in the mouth and make them quit. So when you grow up like that, doing hundreds of push-ups at every practice, running stairs, running 10 laps on a gravel track, and then going right into practice, you get this tough mindset, and they're very much all about building strong men because Mount Vernon is a very dangerous, rough place to kind of grow up. So they take the responsibility of kind of being like second fathers. The entire organization is like that. And going to Iona Prep, I immediately walked into rich, fancy territory with people that I don't really recognize. They're all from the places that they tell you don't go to when you're from Mount Vernon. So there, they kind of instilled in me how to be professional pretty much at all times. And then I played some junior college football. I had a car accident, which kind of ended my college career. But the time that I spent there, I went to Nassau Community. We were number 4 in the country. All of my coaches, every single one of them, even my strength and conditioning coach, played in the NFL. So that was like an eye-opening experience where it showed me how efficient you can be with your time. They don't waste a second of anything. And if they wasting a second, it's because they're trying to throw you off. If they got you just sitting around doing nothing, they're watching what you're doing or they're waiting for somebody to do something stupid. So I kind of brought that attitude with me and I kind of live that way. And whenever I'm on a team, I kind of have that let's do it the right way attitude. Let's not waste time. Let's be professional. And I guess over time, like being a captain, I was a captain my entire football career. So now as semi-pro, like I could care less if I'm a captain or not. It's a title. It's more so what you do every day. But I'm usually loyal. So even though I played for close to 10 teams, um, I usually have to swap teams because the team is not around anymore or something catastrophic happens. It's not really because of me. I'll stick it out, and I want to see success. And I think that's one of the things that semi-pro needs. It needs guys who are willing to stick it out for the long run, the guys who will show up every day. Because the constant changing of teams and the constant folding of teams is what's really holding the sport back. Um, so I think when you combine the fact that I'm very loyal and I try to bring a professional outlook to everything all the time and just be as efficient as I can, you know, eventually I'm going to make a captain's list at some point, for any team that I play for.
Well, that was let's just go with the simple word inspiring.
I appreciate it.
I love I've met few people who have a good sense on of worth ethic and culture. So I appreciate there's still people like you in the world and the crazy times we live with. And I wish there were more of us, but sadly there are not. Because if we had more people like you, we would probably a lot of problems in the world would not be going on.
I appreciate that.
I know that's a kind of broad and maybe I'm over flattering, but you have to over flatter when you hear when someone is as dedicated, well rounded, well spoken as you. So that I just have to get that little 2 cents out there.
I truly appreciate it, bro.
You're welcome. So I I guess moving on to our latter stages of the interview. I always the last 2 times I've done this, I've forgotten to do this at the beginning. I haven't asked you yet. What position do you play in the football?
Yeah, so I played running back linebacker as a kid, pretty much all the way up to high school. Played running back and a linebacker-ish position. And I had a knee injury. It wasn't bad. It wasn't like a tear or anything. It was like a sprain, but it kind of forced me to play just defense. So throughout the rest of my high school career and going into college, I played like a safety linebacker type position. Going into semi-pro, I came in as a safety, which is what I played in college, and I also doubled as a running back. And then as I got older, um, I don't know, something happened where I came downhill and I hit a guy really hard, and I felt like I was concussed again. And I was just like, yeah, I'm starting to get too old for this. Maybe I shouldn't be giving myself concussions, laying people out. So I started to just focus on running back a lot more. And for the Steelers, I had a bigger impact on offense than I did on defense. And that kind of just stuck. And for the rest of my career, I pretty much just played running back. So Now on the Falcons, I'm a running back, and pretty much any team that you could think of in the last 3 or 4 years that I played on, I was just strictly a running back.
And do you wish you could go back to being a running back at all, or is it like you've grown a love for linebacker?
No, I'm a running back now.
Oh, sorry.
Do I wish that I could go back to being like a safety? I get my rocks off sometimes in practice, and there are situations in a game where, like last year with the Falcons, we were at nationals, and I had to get out there and play a little bit of defense. To be honest, like my training has completely changed, and the way that I move my body and my focus on how I train has changed, and I just don't have the feel for it as much anymore. Like I coach it still, and I can still do it, but I just naturally feel like a running back now. So no, I kind of I've had my success playing defense. I've gotten my championships and things. So now it's more of just the other side of my career and just having fun playing football. And I have a lot of fun playing running back.
Mm. Yeah, I was a fullback myself. I tried to get the running back, but I played for a team that had too many running backs. I think one time had 11 running backs. So my coach was like, "Franny, I love you. You could maybe play running back, but go play fullback. We don't have enough fullbacks." He put it at least he was like, "Okay, you could have played running back, but it's like go play a position that we actually need,
Yeah.
not something we don't."
Everybody calls themselves a running back. And I'm like at an age where I was a part of old school football and I watched the change into new school football. Like I was a part of that. So back in the day, you had tailbacks and you had running backs and you had halfbacks and you had there was one other back.
Fullback. Don't
It was
forget fullback.
the spell back, and then you had fullbacks. And each back was a different type of running back. And what it did was it let you know what you are to the team. And today's game, because of how offenses operate and because of how defenses operate, everybody's just a running back now. But the truth is they need to go back to that older system of naming because a running back is the kind of guy who will block and go through the gaps. A spell back is the kind of guy that'll get out on the edge and take you the distance because he's so fast. But you're never gonna run him on a dive. And you have a team with 11 running backs, but only two of them can run dive, and two of them are more like fullbacks, but they're just a little fast. And you got a bunch of like spellbacks, all these guys that could just run, and everybody wants the ball in their hands, and they assume running back's going to get the ball a lot. So let me just go be a running back, and yeah, don't get me started.
But yeah, I remember that when they used to have all those names. I remember that. And and also, I guess to add on to your point, I wish we could go back to the system where people don't forget that the fullback even exists.
Yeah, super important position on the field.
I,
Fullbacks and tight ends, super important.
it is saddened me how the fullback has been how it's been treated, but I am glad to see in certain parts where it is starting to gain its
Starting to
respect
come
back.
back. It's starting to come back.
Yeah, because it's like take the NFL for example, because offenses kept getting smaller and faster, smaller and faster, smaller and faster. Linebackers got smaller and faster, smaller and faster. But now, then you had Derrick Henry come along and start running through those running backs and not a running back linebackers. I mean, we all saw what he did to Josh Norman. Uh, so now it's like now I think the trend's going back to where it's like okay, we actually have to you gotta get bigger, stronger linebackers, bigger, stronger linebackers. Then it's gonna go, oh, we need to get bigger, stronger fullbacks to block for our running backs because they're gonna get killed.
Yeah, I mean, football is cyclical and strategy, and defenses are reactionary. So if the offense is spread out and get really small and fast, the defense is going to react to that, and they're going to spread out and get really small and fast. And I think what we're seeing right now is that over the last decade, offenses have gotten really sophisticated and they've really tried to stretch defenses out and then run the running backs underneath. And defenses have gotten really smart at being able to take away both the deep pass and the immediate run game. So now offenses are trying to figure out how to get extra blockers to run. And you see the most successful offenses right now use the tight end and they use motion to create, mismatches to kind of get a tight end onto a linebacker like what a fullback would do. And once you saw that transition, you see defenses respond to that. So now they have all of these split coverages where they take care of the tight end first. And you have two guys basically with responsibility on the tight end. So if you run the ball to them, there's always a free guy. And the response to that, we're seeing it this season, was that some teams in the NFL, Baltimore Ravens were one of them, they started bringing in a traditional fullback, and they brought in a traditional fullback and still kept the tight end. So now you get that 2-on-1 with the tight end, and then one guy is free, and they pick him up with the fullback, and it creates these huge lanes, right? There's great spacing. And what you'll see over the next couple years is they will make that more and more efficient, and you'll see the fullback come back, and other teams will copy because it's a copycat league. And then when somebody on the defense figures out how to stop the fullback tight end again, you'll see everybody stopping it, and then they'll get rid of the fullback again. I mean, right now they're saying that the running back position is devalued in the NFL, and that's temporary. That's temporary.
Oh
You
yeah, it
know,
will be temporary. Just wait till another Adrian Peterson, Jim Brown, or Walter
exactly.
Payton or Emmett
Bijan
Smith come along.
Robinson. Bijan Robinson right now is the start of bringing the running back position back into the forefront, and you'll see it happen. Running
If
back.
only they would use him, actually.
Well, he's got to get. Listen, the Falcons is my team. I'm a Georgia boy, but he's got to get out of Atlanta. If he gets out of Atlanta, he'll be fine.
Well, they got rid of Arthur Smith, so you should guys should be good.
Maybe it depends. It's hard to know, but get out of there right now and go back maybe later. But yeah, you'll see these cycles happen. The one position that probably will never cycle off of importance is the quarterback position. That will always and forever be super important. But you'll see big receivers will come back. These big, huge, tall guys that are really solid and not so fast. You'll see that come back, and then eventually it'll be all about the speed guys, and it's just cycles, man.
Yeah, and thank God for the cycles because I can't stand teams without a fullback no more.
Uh,
It's just a personal peeve of mine.
like me, a team that doesn't use their running back, I get so upset. I'm like, use the running back. You need them.
Yeah, the Ravens paid for that since they only ran the ball. I think I counted like 12 times all game, and they're
that
the number one rushing offense in the league.
that was a failure in strategy. I mean, statistically, it might have made sense, but you got to use your head in football.
I I mean, I understand that the Chiefs have a great front four, but then you do what John Riggins did. You pound them. You pound Gus Edwards in the first half. The second half, they're not going to be able to tackle him because they've already pounded them like 20 times to 30 times. So, oh God, I can get it all into you with, oh my God, it's just
Me too.
like
You
like
have
I was
fastest
saying during the
athlete.
game, why aren't you running?
You got one of the fastest athletes in football in Lamar Jackson at the quarterback position, and you dropping him back into 7-step drops instead of running them with lead blockers. Didn't make sense. It didn't.
Yeah, it
Get
it
him out
it
of the
did.
pocket, dude. Like he's taking sacks. Get him out of the pocket. They can't run with him.
I know that like the right guard couldn't stop Chris Jones. I watched the game. He was like Chris Jones was by that guy within 2 seconds. So it's like, what's
Yeah,
the point of doing a 7 step drop if you're going to lose 10 yards because Chris Jones just killed your quarterback?
exactly. Get downhill.
Yeah.
But that's old school football. So you're a fullback. I'm a running back who grew up in old school football and kind of am now a part of new school football. We think like that, but a lot of these coaches these days they're under pressure to, do what is happening now, be a part of the new system. And I think you have these like gigantic failures in football. Like the Ravens should have ran the ball significantly more than they did. And now looking at it, they probably like, what the hell is wrong with us? But in the moment, it's like statistically, you 60% gonna get this third down if you throw it, and then they throw it on 3rd and 3, and
Oh
it's like,
my God. People
okay.
should just take statistics up their ass. Oh my God. It's just so like analytics can, I mean, analytics, I could get into you with analytics. Anal Analytics are good to an extent, but
Yes.
then when you start going like it's better, it's like percentages to go. It's better to run than pass on this, and then better to go for it than this. It's just like analytics can't. You shouldn't always listen to them.
Yeah.
Oh my. You shouldn't know because just take the 49ers like we were talking. They ran the ball down Detroit's freaking mouth in
Yeah.
the second half because they
Yeah.
didn't run the ball the first half. They ran it the second half. They couldn't stop McCaffrey.
Yeah. Yeah. I was concerned at the beginning of that game. I was like, I don't think they're gonna give Christian McCaffrey the ball this game. I'm getting worried. But
Like
when they
that's
gave
why
it to
they're in the
him,
Super Bowl.
yeah. We'll see. I think the Super Bowl is gonna be a tale of two halves, just like every other game in this postseason. You know, the first half said one thing, and then the second half was totally different, changed the game. I think the Super Bowl is gonna be the same way.
Oh, I can't wait to watch it. I know we've gone off topic, but I can't wait to watch it. I'll say this, I want the 49ers to win only because they haven't won it since the 80s. I don't hate the Chiefs or anything. They've already got a couple of theirs. Mahomes got a couple, let Purdy get one. Let Shanahan finally get one as a head coach so he can, finally put that to bed with his father and everything. That's the only reason why I want the 49ers to win.
I'm a Christian McCaffrey fan. I emulate many of his workouts, so I'm rooting for my guy. You know, I really hope he gets there, and gets that ring because he deserves it. That dude is a workhorse, and he deserves one.
Yeah, thank God he got away from David Tepper.
Yeah. But you know, it's hard to root against Kansas City because they just figure it out. And Isaiah Pacheco is in his prime right now. If you're not watching that dude, I know he runs a little funny and people make fun of him, but that dude is in his prime and he's getting after it. So it's kind of
And
it's
how did he get undrafted?
right. That dude is
Like he is outplaying the guy they took at number 25 overall. And this guy went undrafted.
yep, yep. That's how it goes. How it goes.
It's just amazing.
Yeah.
It's just man, that just oh my God. I got a little sidetracked because there was so much I wanted to get off my chest with that.
Me too.
Oh God, that felt good to finally get off my chest. All right. I won't keep you here much longer. I'll just do my usual last question. I'll just throw one more question out here before we get to the last one. I so I I guess okay, so now I got to get back into interview mode. Shoot. So let's see. What should I ask for my second to last question? Anything new I have thought of? Uh dang. Oh, all right, here we go. D Okay. Is oh God damn it. Come on, just uh okay. Here we go. I know you've mentioned this a great many times throughout the interview about camaraderie and stuff. D What's your opinion about like the bad teams? Why is it that and we've probably already, gone over some of their reasons, but why does camaraderie not always work on some football teams? Even if they are 500, why doesn't camaraderie stay together?
There's two answers to this question, and they're very separate answers. They're two
Okay.
afflictions that happen separately. I think it just depends on combination that you get. So the first one is the easiest one to identify. You get a group of coaches and owners, and it's time to put together a roster. And they need to fill out this roster. They need quarterbacks, running backs, linemen, any linebackers, DBs, right? And what they do is they say, I know a great running back. Dude's a monster. Well, I know one of the best quarterbacks I've ever seen. Yeah, and I know a linebacker who led the league in tackles the last couple of years. And I know this DB that has eight in it, and it keeps going. And I know the best and the best and the best. And what you find is a bunch of very talented football players that are all about themselves. And they are all about maintaining the most tackles in the league, maintaining the most touchdowns, maintaining the most touches, having the offense run through me. And I got to be the captain and I got to be the best in the league. And you get all of these guys together in the room, it's not going to work out because they have competing desires, right? The quarterback wants to be the head of the team, but you got one of the most dominant running backs in football who's also on the team. Those guys cannot both be the offense. And now you get people who are upset. I didn't get the ball enough. You didn't run the ball enough. You threw the ball too much. And you got a quarterback who's like, what do you mean you threw the ball too much? I'm a dog. I should have the ball in my hands. And you get receivers who are like, I'm the best receiver. And the guy right next to him is like, I'm the best receiver. And then you get this butting of heads where it's very hard to create camaraderie when there's too many chefs. You know, you got to have one chef or two chefs, and they've got to agree, and everybody else has to support that system. Um, and that happens on defense too. So you get this amalgamation of a roster that it's great talent wise, but we never thought about how these guys were going to fit with each other. That's one side. The other side of it is you get this great amalgamation of talent, but the quarterback is a spread quarterback and he likes to be in shotgun. But this running back is a 2,000-yard rusher, but only when he has a fullback and a tight end in front of him. So you got this really great running back, but you got him in a spread system. He's not a spread running back. So you kind of wasted that talent. And when you have that in a system like semi-pro where you're not seeing your coaches every day, you're not in meetings every day, you know, you're not on the field at practice every day where you can kind of iron these social problems out, you end up with a problem that festers for weeks before anybody ever really even recognizes it because we never see each other enough. And now a small problem that probably could have been talked about becomes a huge problem where guys aren't talking to each other, guys don't like each other, guys don't trust each other, and it's too late now. And with semi-pro, you can get to a place where it's too late to even change your team. So you get to a place where there's no available teams, and if I go somewhere else, I'm now going to share time with another running back where here I'm the starter. Like you get these weird problems where I hate you guys, but I'm staying, you know, and then it just all falls apart from within and eventually you fold. You know, those teams rarely make it to the end. Now, the other affliction that you have in semi-pro is that there's no systems, right? And one of the main priority, the most prioritized job of a coach is not to call plays on game day. Coaches forget that in semi-pro. The priority of a coach is to manage the team. And managing a team means having systems in place. You need a system for how you guys are going to meet. You need a system for the transfer of information back and forth from players to coaches, from coaches to owners. You need a system for how we're going to build camaraderie. What are we going to do every year to bring all the guys into the room at the same time so everybody can meet each other and get to know each other and talk to each other? How are we going to create a situation where we bond the team together throughout the season? You know, what are we going to do every year to bond the team together? What are we going to do after games so guys can bond? Win or lose, we stick together. It's kind of the message. What are we going to do to create that? How are we going to create competition within so that guys don't feel like I'm just picking him as the starter, even though you might be very talented, that's my guy. How can we create a system where that's my guy and I like him, but you're talented. Whoever wins, wins. And even if it's even, I'm going to say something that's controversial, but it's true. Even if you're going to go with that guy anyway, as a coach, you have to create a system where it makes it seem like there's an ability to compete for the job, right? Because
Yeah.
if there's no system like that, what you'll have is you'll have 11 starters on offense and 11 starters on defense, and the rest of the team is alienated out, and they feel like there's really no point in me being here. And then you get
How is
loaded
that a
with practice.
controversial opinion? That's kind of the point.
How
That's what good coaches do. They make it so that nobody's comfortable with your job. They make them push themselves, and that's normal. How is that controversial?
the controversial part in semi-pro is that you know don't the controversial part period is you were always gonna go with him. You just made me feel like you you might give me a shot. Um,
Uh,
but what people fail to understand is that if we create a system where I'm gonna go with this guy anyway, mid-season, this guy is not performing. He's a quarterback and he's thrown 10 interceptions in 4 games. If you are competing in practice every day and you're throwing touchdowns and no interceptions and he's throwing interceptions, eventually I'm gonna give you a shot. But right now we have no systems on a lot of teams, and this guy throws 10 interceptions and he's still the starter next week. And he throws two more interceptions and he's still the starter. He throws three more interceptions. And then the backup quarterback quits. And when the backup quarterback quits, he takes his five friends with him. They quit. And you just get this domino effect of people not believing in the team anymore. And the camaraderie gets real bad. The culture gets real bad. And because there's a lack of a system, you can't even fix it because there's no place that you can identify the problem. You can't say, okay, we didn't do a good job here. Let's do a better job there. It's like, oh, it's just all falling apart. So we got to fix it all. And you can never fix it all, especially not mid-season. So two things need to happen. You got to first have systems that come from the top down. You got to really, before you start a team, you got to think it out. You got to plan it out and you got to be prepared to stand behind that and make sure it happens. And the other side of it is that, whoever's in charge of putting together the team, and there's got to be somebody with the final say, whether it's the owner or the head coach, or if it's the individual coordinators putting together their individual offense or defense. When you put together a team, you got to put together a team that works together, not necessarily the most talented team you can find. And when you do those things, you end up having championships.
that's probably a that damn. It, I mean, this is gonna sound stupid. It's like you've kind of partially answered the next question I was gonna go into, which is, do you feel that there is which is the last question, do you think there's a stigma against semi-pro football players? And I know we've you've kind of already given little snippets throughout the. So I don't. So you can go as long-winded as you want, or kind of shorten it because of what's already been said. But yeah, baseline is do you think that there's a stigma, thanks to all the things we've talked about, a stigma towards semi-pro football, not just in here in New England, but just in general?
There's a huge stigma, and it's really an internal fight right now, more than I've ever seen before. Um, you have the external stigma of the people who are outside of the semi-pro bubble, but then you also got a stigma inside of semi-pro. You got guys in semi-pro that I think are just afraid to say that I'm not as good as I want to be. I want to be this big shot dude that's just so damn good at football. I'm just so much better than you guys. And the response is, but you here with us. And instead of being like, yeah, you're right, I play semi pro too, they're like, well, I play semi pro, but I don't take it serious because it's bullshit. And nobody here is really that good anyway. So I don't take it serious. And I think it's bad because when you get stigma from inside, it's kind of hard to fight that. When if we were to take semi-pro as a whole and wrap it up and go to the NFL and say, hey, you should look at semi-pro as a level of football that can feed the NFL. You should start taking guys from semi-pro and putting them in the draft and letting them compete. If you got guys inside semi-pro saying it's not that serious, the NFL is going to look at it and say, well, even if everybody else didn't believe it, your own guys don't believe in it. Like your own players don't believe that it's that serious. And they don't respect the game of football. And I think that's really what it comes down to inside of semi-pro. There's just a lack of respect for the sport that we play. Yeah, it's fun, and it's something we've grown up doing, most of us. Some guys are entering the sport as adults, and they really don't belong here, right? But there's a way that you could handle that. Um, the honest truth is just that there's just a lack of respect for the sport where it's not all fun. A lot of what we reminisce on football is the hard times, the hardest workouts, the hardest hits, the hardest games, the worst weather. Those are the things that we talk about. And those are the things that are the funniest and the best feelings. It's not when we blew a team out by 80. Like we talk about it and we laugh about it, but it's like, yeah, we blew them out by 80. It's more of the games where it was like, yo, remember when it came down to that last second? We fought the whole game. Like that's the moment where you respect it because it was challenging. Semi-pro football is challenging. There are some very extremely well put together teams and some very talented coaches that are in the sport. And I don't really know where that stigma comes from. I really think it's just a personal, opinion about myself. And because I don't want to say that I'm not an NFL quality player, I'm just going to say that this whole system is just bullshit and whatever. And then you have the stigma from the outside looking in. And I think it's totally justified. First of all, we're supposed to be professional, even semi-professional. We play on high school fields. We don't even play on college level fields. We're not playing in stadiums, arenas, or anything like that. So when you see a bunch of grown men playing at a high school, right there, the stigma goes, you got a bunch of grown men holding on to their past, right? Secondly, you have teams that show up with different colored helmets and some guys, you got white jerseys. Some guys are wearing red gloves. Some guys are wearing yellow gloves. Some guys are wearing purple gloves. It's like, yo, what's the color of the team? You have 50-year-old guys out there with 18-year-old guys. Like, there's just no way for somebody who's totally uninvolved with semi-pro to come to a game and look at it and be like, okay, I understand what's going on here. And then take it a step further. Usually there's no scoreboard. The referees don't really do their job well. You have fights. You got guys taking their stuff off. You got guys smoking in the parking lot at halftime. You got guys drinking on the sideline, like sneaking sips of liquor on the sideline. Like people can see. People are watching. And when you do get these really solid football teams, I think of teams like the Shamrocks in Marlboro or Brooklyn Seminoles, Dallas Prime down in Texas. And there's so many more teams I'm leaving out. Like there's so many really well-run organizations that have lots of success. Even on those teams and those rosters, you see some of the lack of professionalism kind of eke out and leak into all different places. You'll have players smoking and just all the kinds of things that we can't do. Like if the NFL has to be professional, you got to think the NFL is $1 billion organization and they have to be professional. And when they have situations where they have fights, they have players doing stupid shit, getting arrested, things like that. And it hurts them. But they're $1 billion organization that has been around for 70 plus years, who has Super Bowls and things like that. We don't have any of that. So semi-pro has to be even more buttoned up than the NFL if we want to ever get respect. And the craziest thing is that people take chances on us all the time. Networks take chances on us. Radio takes chances on us. Businesses sponsor us. And if they sponsor one team, they sponsored all of us. If you don't understand that, right? Um, and we squander it. You know, we have fights and we lose sponsors, we lose fields, we lose support from the mayor. We have kids at the games and somebody gets shot or a gun gets pulled out, and like they don't want semi-pro anywhere near that county anymore. You
In
know,
my case, a knife was pulled out.
knife pulled out. I've been a part of two or three team brawls where I'm like screaming at dudes mid fight, pulling dudes away. Like, yo, if we fight right now, it could be the last game we all play. Like, y'all don't understand what's happening right now. And I mean, the stigma is for good reason. A lot of the guys that play semi-pro are the guys that couldn't play anywhere else. They want to, but they couldn't, and it's not because of talent most of the time, it's because of attitude. It's because of behavior. Um, so when I think about the stigma of semi-pro, I think of guys are old, guys aren't that talented, it's not serious, it's not very professional, and shit. I don't even know about the teams in my area. I couldn't tell you the name of them. I couldn't tell you where to find them. I never see them. They're like ghost teams. So why should I even care about them? Because who cares about them? And I think all of those stigmas are accurate. I do think that there is a very easy solution to all of it. I mean, it's very easy, but I'll stop being politically correct for a second. It has to come from the league level. The leagues have to care more about the sanctity of football than they do about maintaining their league and maintaining the money that they generate from their league. I think league owners and boards have to not want to generate an income and not care so much about making sure that my league is represented in the best way possible and care more about the teams and the players that are in their league and making sure that it's sustainable. Because the product is not the league, the product is the teams. You have no league without any teams, right? And if you allow your teams to operate at a low level, I don't care how many flashy lights you put on a car. I don't care how good the paint is. If the engine is going to blow up, the engine's going to fucking blow up and your car is useless, right? So the league is the outside body and the teams are the engine, right? And if you cannot sustain the teams, then you can't sustain the leagues. And we're seeing that happening. You're seeing prominent leagues that have been around for over a decade that have sent national champions over and over repeatedly. You're seeing those type of leagues fold because they can't sustain themselves. And you're seeing new leagues pop up that everybody hates. Nobody wants to play in these new leagues. They suck, but there's nowhere else to play. And that league will fold and another league will pop up. And it's like every year, every couple of years, your teams fold, leagues fold. It's all new. And you're getting into this snowball effect where it's getting worse and worse and worse. I mean, last year we had a situation where the referees did not want to ref any more football games. A referee got punched in his face because I think he kicked the player out or gave him a flag, and the player punched him. And the entire group of referees in our entire region did not want to ref another football game. They raised the prices. We had a situation where a team was supposed to purchase a field, right? Rent the field and make sure that they paid for lights and everything. They didn't do any of that. None of it. They just hopped on the field and just played a football game on a field unsanctioned. And that field chose to price out football teams. You want to play soccer there, $600 to rent the field. You want to play football there, it's $2,000 to rent the field. Um, so the stigma is not unjustified, but the solution is not to tell the players to be better gentlemen. The solution is not to tell coaches to only recruit quality guys. The solution is to have better systems from the top down and to focus on the things that will make football better and not just try to capitalize on a moment until you can't capitalize on it anymore.
I don't know how I can follow that up. Uh, it's there's very little I can say to be able to follow up something like that. But that's probably going to top the previous best answer I've gotten. I forget who I forget who it was that told gave me the previous best. It was definitely someone recently, and I think it was somebody else on your team gave me a pretty darn good um answer. It was maybe it was Khalil, maybe it was Blackwood or Monty. I can't remember exactly.
all my dogs, all my dogs.
So I this is kind of, that kind of comes into why I'm doing these kinds of things where it's like I'm doing interviews with these players because I want to get these players more out there. I want to get these leagues more out there. More people, more money, better facilities, better things. Then it branches out. Then you get like you cut the lean off of the meat where it's like okay you cut all the bad stuff off. Now you get into to the steak what you're gonna cook and then you put on the seasoning and everything, and then you're good. You got a good steak. But it's
Right,
like it's a process to get there. And I want to start ushering in that process to where it's like I want to bring in a centralized, stabilized broadcasting and interview. I want to be like your version of ESPN, but it's like we're different. We're not ESPN. We're something different. You guys can have your thing, but this is ours.
right.
And I want to be able to say that I helped this stigma at least partially go away to where it's like, okay, hey, you want to go watch the football game on YouTube? Oh yeah, which game? That game. And like, oh, you want to watch a live football game on YouTube? Let's go watch that one. That's what I want. That's what I want to bring. So it's
Right.
like, okay, then that could cause a snowball effect.
Yeah, I started a podcast 2 years ago called 60 for 60. And at first I just did it on Facebook and then eventually um I started to post the videos on YouTube after. And it really I did it at first because we were playing in the IFA. I wasn't familiar with the IFA. It was my first year playing in it, but I knew about the Patriots who kind of rooted the IFA. And I just felt like there was really good football happening and really good teams, and something special was happening, and nobody knew about it. Nobody was seeing it. There was no system to really check up on things, and it wasn't out there. So I really was just talking about the IFA at first and talking about the different teams and how much points was scored. And I was using I was making little graphics and stuff and putting it up there. And then I kind of went and got a streaming service that really helped me make it look better. Uh, but I was only getting 20, 30 views, sometimes 50 views most. Um, but there was other talk shows going on Facebook and YouTube and stuff where they were kind of just shooting shit, just talking shit, and they were getting like hundreds of views. And I was just kind of like, man, I guess maybe I'm not needed. Maybe I'm wasting my time. Maybe that's not the market that we really should have. But I did it more so for the fans, the people that were like family members or the girlfriends of players that were like, yeah, mom, dad, I'm going to my boyfriend's football game. And the mom and dad is like, what football game? Maybe the girlfriend could be like, well, there's this guy that does a podcast and he really explains it well. And if you watch his show, you'll learn about like the team's records and who's winning, who's losing, and things like that. And then I started ranking the teams. So when I started ranking the teams in the area, other teams were like, why are we not on the list? And I was like, well, you're in a different league. And it was like, well, that's not fair. So I started ranking other leagues, and then it grew out to the point where I put out the entire region. So I ranked teams from Maine all the way down to Maryland and encompassing. So Pennsylvania, New York, Connecticut, New Hampshire, Mass, every team in the area, Vermont. And then I started kind of trying to expand and talk about more things. And really, that was the whole premise. The whole premise was to change the look of semi-pro. No more of the like, it's only bullshit. It's only guys talking shit and making fun of each other. And like, there's a lane for that. Yeah, that's fun, and I laugh at it, and I think it's fun too. There's also a lane I think that's missing of like stats and talking about teams and their histories and talking about the perils of football and you know kind of trying to help people understand where does semi-pro fit into what they know. When you ask somebody about football, they'll tell you the NFL. They'll tell you, yeah, I think there's a league in Canada. Let's say college football is big and high school football. Rarely do they talk about Pop Warner or the other Pop Warner-esque leagues, the youth leagues, and rarely do they talk about semi-pro. They understand where the youth leagues fit in. They do not understand where semi-pro fits in.
And then you've also got now the UFL is coming in.
Right. So the UFL, honestly, is semi-pro football. Just take the semi part out. They're
Yeah,
professional.
because it's like yeah, it basically is, but they get paid.
They
But
get
it's
paid.
that they have the structure that you and I have talked about. They
Right.
have the like not the greatest, but it's like 10,000 times better than what some of these other leagues are offering.
The money does not come from them selling tickets. A lot of semi-pro leagues, teams, owners think that the way I will make money is by selling tickets. The more people I can get in the door, the more money I will make. Even the NFL does not base its business plan on ticket sales. The NFL doesn't base its revenue on ticket sales. Its revenue comes from two places, majority. It comes from merchandise and it comes from naming deals. Whether they're getting money from marketing or they're dishing money out with a return on investment that comes back. So just business planning, strategic planning, finance planning in general is just misunderstood because if you look at the UFL, they don't sell lots of tickets. Their stadiums are empty sometimes, but those teams are still making a profit enough to pay their players, pay their coaches, keep the lights on. They just strategically do everything in a way where they can minimize costs and they can maximize revenue. And that's really the only difference between the UFL and semi-pro is that the business acumen is missing on this side. And that's why the product is so much lower. Because I know some guys that we have played against that are in the UFL right now. We literally played against them a year or two ago, and now they're in the UFL. And they weren't that good. So you've got some really good football players that probably deserve a chance in the UFL that are not there. And trying to help the local community. You got a team in Hartford, Connecticut. Hartford has 250,000 people that live in Hartford. You know, if you could capture 1% of that, you could pack out a semi program with 2,000 people. You know, you don't need a huge market share, but how do you capture that market share? How do you turn that into revenue? And then how do you build out the system? That's why you need standardization. That's why you need it to come from the league level. Guys have to get on board with each other. And that is what will overcome the stigma of semi-pro because listen, there's a stigma of the UFL. If you think that there are not people out there that say, oh, I'm not going to watch the UFL, that's just a bunch of washed up college players, not realizing that there's also some NFL players that are going there just to kind of revamp their game. You know, there's some guys coming out of Mexico that are playing in the LFA that are getting paid $800,000 a year, and they just want to come back to the NFL. And this is their route there. You got players coming from all over. Like their minds are so limited, you know. So like there's stigma at every level, even in the NFL. Like there's people who are drafted in the first round, and there's a bunch of people that are like, oh, he's gonna be a bust. Like, you're always gonna have stigma. It's how you deal with it. How do you overcome it? The players can't overcome it. The coaches can't overcome it. The owners the leagues, and there has to be some bigger system where everybody can come together to work together to overcome it. Without those things in place, we're kind of doomed to a greater failure over time.
Yeah, and I hope hopefully we that the failure doesn't come to where hopefully, as I said before, more guys like me and things hopefully get better. You know, it gets standardized because I mean, and now that if the USFL becomes USFL, the UFL becomes standardized, then that then the UFL can then be say, oh, there's also another thing. There's also semi-pro. So it's like then people could say, oh, there's pro, UFL, arena, then semi pro.
Yeah.
And so then people will get, oh, the talk. Then they're starting to talk about semi-pro. Then they're gonna say, oh, what's it like? Then they're gonna say, oh, how do you play? And then it's just as I've said already, snowball effect. So it's just you gotta hope that hopefully some smart people come in and take advantage of the opportunity that this is, because there is an opportunity here that not many people see, and hopefully they have the resources and patience, 100% the patience to weather the storm.
100%, I will say we are leaving probably $500 million worth of revenue generating activity on the table in semi-pro. If you took all the different regions and you broke them down by numbers of potential revenue, you could probably come up with $500 million across the country. So there is a potential for money to be made, profit to be made. The question is always how, and then the stigma response is always, you really think that could happen at this level? Yes.
100% can happen at this level.
You just have to
Like
change
even like
up.
even though the guys are still going to pay to get on the teams, but hey, if you guys get more eyes, then sponsors are going to come in. They're going to say, "Hey, can you wear this during the game? Hey, can you, like say something if someone does an interview with you? Then they'll pay you, and then they're getting your money back. Then you recoup that 200. Then you're making a little extra on the side along with the other job. It's just like the possibilities are endless. There is a blank slate here that barely anybody is painted on. Like this is one of the greatest opportunities since HR Hunt, or not HR, since Lamar Hunt started the AFL back in 1960.
Yeah.
And people just don't realize it.
Yeah. Just sitting here thinking about it. I remember reading a story about how semi-pro football is a product of the AFL merger with the NFL,
Oh,
and they
100%.
had at the time it was called the USFL, the United States Football League. It was supposed to be what the UFL is today. It was like one big league that was like a semi-professional league at the time. It was called amateur level, semi-professional, and the players got paid, and it was like the NFL, but just on a smaller scale. It didn't last long, and when that league kind of I don't want to say they folded, more so they kind of ceased operation at the end of the last season. The committee, the board came together, and lots of people were like, well, I want to still play football and I want a team. And they kind of came up with what we know as semi-professional football now. And it just kind of kept devolving. At one point, it was one standardized system, and it just slowly kept devolving until people were just making teams and making leagues and not getting, sanctioned. And now we have semi-pro football as we know it today, that pretty much anybody could just put together a league, get insurance, and hey, we got a league. You can get a team, get insurance. Hey, we got a team. Hey, we went and rented a field, so we got a field to play at. Now we just need to find players. Um, so we can definitely reverse history and get back to that place. I think the problem is just that It's just too easy to make a quick buck on teams paying their dues, and there's no real want or need at the league level. I think more so it's just not a want to work together with other leagues and communicate with other leagues and make sure that this whole thing stays together. I think a lot of the leagues are just like, well, we're doing our own thing. Like if you failed and you failed, that's great for me. I'm just going to take all your teams and start my own league in your area. Um, and it's just bad for football. So, you know, I think we really need to call the leagues out more. I think we need more league owners like Sean Slippy. Sean Slippy runs the Den, which is a spring league that has some New York teams, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and I think a Maryland team or two. So it's a pretty large area, and they have some of the best football teams in the area, if not the best football teams in the area. And as a league owner, he's very recently a player. So he's coming out of being a player, and I believe he coached a little bit and then straight into owning his own league. And he has the same mindset that we do. He looks at things the same way that we do. He wants to promote better football, and he puts in place certain systems that we're talking about to make sure that things are at a level where when people show up to these games, they're impressed. And he's very innovation driven, and we just need more guys like him. If we can just duplicate him throughout semi-pro football, a lot of the problems that we are talking about will go away, and then we can start to push forward. Um, and I think right now we just need some of these people who are at the top who control it all to let go and move forward with the times. Because if not, if we don't do it as a collective, then what we're waiting for is somebody who's powerful enough with enough money to take an interest in this level of football and create the system all their own. And a $500,000 market share is enticing, but the amount of money it's going to take to make that happen from a singular person, the return on investment, I don't think is high enough for the reward. And I don't think anybody in football that is a football guy that has that amount of money is going to spend that money in semi-pro. He'd rather donate that money to a college or be a part of the UFL or be a part of the NFL at that point, right? So I think really it's a problem. It's our problem that we have to own, and we have to do it collectively. And if we do it, this entire system will be better. Everything will be better. You know, everything will be easier. And if we don't do it, we'll keep running into the situations we're running into, and it'll just be the most frustrating experience ever. Because there's some really good football. You take away all the BS and you just look at the games that are played. I've watched semi-pro games that I had nothing to do with, and I was locked in. I was stuck watching the game. Like, damn, like it's somebody's about to score, somebody's about to get their head knocked loose. It's a 1 point game, and I'm like locked in. And then they bring out a kicker for a 37-yard field goal, and I'm like, no way. There's no way they have a kicker that can hit a 40-yard field goal, and he booms it. And I'm like, what? Like there's those moments that I have with semi-pro football that I don't have watching the NFL. I don't have that unless I'm watching like a college game or something where there's different stakes. So the opportunities there, like you said, it's a new horizon. I think the hard part is just convincing all of the stakeholders to get on board with that.
No, it's gonna be one hell of a fight. I can tell you that much. I can't tell you. I've probably who knows how much money I've already sunk into my channel and to the kind of stuff I do. But I know if I weather the storm, eventually the return is gonna come back, and it's gonna be a million times, a quadruple million times more. And I can't wait for that day. And hopefully, if I do pull that off, I'll be able to send my kids to college for free.
Definitely, definitely. When you get there, we'll definitely toast that.
Oh, and we'll toast on some damn good champagne.
Yes, sir.
So I would love Hey, if you ever want to come back on the show again on this, I'll do another one with you. 'Cause we were, I mean, Jesus, this has got to be the longest one I've ever done, the most into it one I've ever done. I mean, I just like, yeah, etc. I can't say that.
Definitely, definitely. Yeah, definitely. We'll definitely do it again.
So, hope you ladies and gentlemen enjoyed me and Morris Hilton, and hope you guys see us next time.
Definitely. Take care, guys.